All right. Can everyone hear me? Let's see. We got Brian, Cowboy Chris, Edgar, Jeffrey Cobb, Marianne Osborne, the amazing Marianne Osborne, Michael, Mike, and I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name, but I don't speak Chinese. At least I believe that's Chinese. If I'm wrong, sorry, but good to have you here. Looks like we have some international people, so that is super cool. Hello, Edgar. My name's Aaron Lovejoy, in case you missed it somewhere. I've been painting miniatures for too long, more than half my life. So maybe not long enough. Maybe that's more like it. And I am the head studio painter for Flying Frog Productions. So all of the box art, pretty much I have done, except for maybe some of the stuff that's from the resin products. But all of the box art for the boxes, the games is done by me, and it's done in a different way that I'm going to show you today. So we've done some speed paint one, I believe the last roll to move, and it was pretty popular, and it's just kind of a cool thing. And so we're going to do speed painting again tonight, and it is it's a technique that if you don't know a whole lot about painting and stuff, you can get some pretty decent results pretty fast, but then you can also take it to the next level. So saying to yourself, I'm not a beginner, so I shouldn't be coming to this class, then you're freaking wrong. And anyways, you can actually take the speed painting and level it up. So that's kind of what we're going to do tonight. We're going to speed paint it first, and then we're going to level up a little bit more later. That being said, let me show you my practice model. It was this is the Grotesque from the last Kickstarter. I had a couple extra copies from when I did the box art for that. These obviously aren't released yet. This is still coming, but it's a really cool model, and I did this model relatively quickly earlier today. So just to kind of practice with the colors and stuff, it's always good to get your, especially with speed paints, they look different in the bottle than they do in real life. So you just kind of want to get an idea of what's going to happen. And so I got an idea. So the model we are going to work on today is this. This is the Gastral Tyrant. Let me pull this back a little bit. This is the Gastral Tyrant. I've been wanting to paint this for a while. I was going to do a Twitch stream on it, but then I just decided, you know what, this is the perfect opportunity to do it. And I've got 2 hours, so hopefully we can paint this in 2 hours. And hopefully I don't talk too long at the start of this, because y'all know I talk too much. So that being said, this is the model we're going to do. We're going to try to get it done completely in 2 hours. If we don't, that's okay, because it's a huge model. But if we can get it done in 2 hours, it will show you just how quick and effective these speed paints are. These are the speed paints in question. They're from Army Painter. We all know that Army Painter also makes the paints for Shadows of Brimstone, the special paints for them. So that being said, we're gonna be using these pretty much exclusively, and then also towards the end, we're gonna be switching back to some opaque colors and see if we can't make our speed painting a little bit better. So, all right, you guys ready? It is a perfect model for speed paints, Michael. Yes, that is for sure. Now, I do have a question and answer thing down below. I'm by myself. If you haven't noticed, Liz is not here. If you're new to the show, you don't know what that means, so you don't care. If you've been around a while, like Marianne or Brian, you will know that I usually have a helper, my better half, the one who keeps me in line and keeps the show from side railing and all that stuff. She is out with a friend tonight. They have this long planned thing and they couldn't change it or anything. So anyways, she's doing that. She'll be back tomorrow. But tonight, things are going to become unhinged completely. And we're going to talk about stuff we're not allowed to talk about. We're going to do all this cool stuff. So anyways, that's probably not going to happen. But I'm a professional, remember? All right. So that being said, there is a question and answer thing at the bottom of your screen. You can hit that to ask questions. And then there's the webinar chat, which is supposed to be for you guys just to chat or whatever. Let's try to keep it at that. If you have a question, put it in the question box. I'm going to be painting like a bat out of hell, quite literally, like a hell bat. So I might not see your question right off the bat, but I will look up from time to time. If I don't, I don't know what to tell you, but I will try to answer all the questions, okay? And if we finish a little bit early, which I'm not quite sure we will or not, maybe we'll ask you guys can ask some questions about other techniques and stuff. But that being said, here we go. Let's do this. Let's get on to the painting. Okay, so I'm going to, not want to do that. These are my reference photos. So here's the main box art, the main picture on the box. And it's kind of fun just to look around and see what kind of cool stuff other people have done. The Mountains of Minis. I really like this color scheme. I really like that. This one's pretty cool. All of these are actually pretty cool. It's always amazing to see the different color of the eggs, little egg sacs. This one's more green. This one's kind of cool. Anyways, it's really cool just to see what different people have done. So I kind of like the purple action here. The Mountains of Minis, I really like that one. It's a little bit more monotone, but maybe we can do something, combination of this and maybe something else. Like I really like the yellow belly on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. We'll go back to our painting HUD here. I'm going to put this on my other screen so that I can look at that from time to time. Oh, come on. Hold on. This is what happens when I'm left to myself here. Alrighty. That was not what I wanted it to do. Okay. It's not doing it. Sorry. Anyways, I will just squeeze that one down so I can see it, but also see my OBS. Okay, so a couple things. If you're new to painting, I use a wet palette. That's this thing right here. And you're going to want to put, I usually fill, there's several different brands of wet palettes. This one's a Red Grass Games one. I think they all work pretty good, you know. You can see that there's a sponge in here. It's on the other side. You can see there's a sponge in here. And I have filled the water up right to the tip top of the sponge. Not above it, so my paper's not swimming in it, but right to the top. And then what I do is I take my palette paper. This is just a piece of it can be parchment paper, baking paper. This is actually a thicker version of the palette paper from a company called Game Envy, and I really like this stuff because it's a little bit thicker than everything else. So put this in here. What usually happens when you put your parchment paper or your palette paper in here is it rolls up. So you see that? It's rolling up like that. So if I just put 4 paint containers right there, I've got it. It will relax in in a minute or so. And all the paper will go back down, and then I don't have it rolling up on itself. The reason why I don't like to do that is I like to keep the top of my paper dry. If you get palette paper that lets water through, and you can kind of tell, there might be a minute amount of water that gets through here, but the way you can tell mainly is you'll have paint coming from your palette down into the sponge. When you take this off, there's all these tornadoes going down into the sponge of paint going back into the palette. And that means that water is coming up in your paint quite a bit, actually. So what I want is I just want a bubbled hydration over my palette that keeps my paint wet for longer. Okay, so I think that works pretty good like that. I'm going to put this back over here. So it's good to go. And, oops, let's go this way. All right. Okay. So we've got that. Now we need to go over the brushes. So I've got some brushes here. Today we'll need a dry brush for sure. We need a just a regular brush. This one's an Artist Opus. It doesn't really matter the brand here. We need something to put paint on the model fairly quickly. So I want a little bit larger brush. This is a size 2 from Artist Opus. They run a little bit small. Here's a size 8. I got this from Hobby Lobby. It's really good. I've got Raphael size 1. You can see the difference between a Raphael size 1 and it's actually bigger than the size 2 from Artist Opus. So they're all different. You know, it doesn't make one better than the other, but you know, we're going to want to get a brush that's a little bit bigger. This brush has seen better days. This is good for dry brushing or something. This one, maybe if I lick it, it will come back into shape. It's not too bad. And these are just Artist Loft hobby brushes. So they're, you know, nothing special here. I recommend when you're base coating to use like a hobby brush, just something synthetic. You don't need the most expensive best brush ever. These brushes hold a lot of paint and they seem to deliver them fairly evenly. So that works out pretty well. Also, I'll explain, normally a lot of you will probably be priming your models out in your garage or something. You just use regular primer. I use a stuff called Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch 2X. The 2X just means it's got twice as much pigment in it, so it covers really quickly. I really like it. It's relatively cheap and it works great. So paint it black, and or in your case, maybe if you're doing, the key to these speed paints is they're see-through and they need white showing through to actually show up. So if you just did black, it wouldn't work at all. These would be pretty much black on top of the black. It doesn't work. So you need it white. And in this case, we need some white showing through. But I do like a little of that black showing up from the bottom. So I do what's called a zenithal prime. I use an airbrush. And when I'm airbrushing, I'm spraying downwards towards the model. So you have like an angle coming in towards the model, hitting from top down. And I can get really good effects. If you see, I get really good shading. I've even got, you know, a little bit of, we'll call it light or white colors showing down here, but not very much. And then much more up here. So I get kind of a really good pre-shaded thing. Now you don't have to do this. You can actually use just pure white primer and use the contrast paints over that, but you're not going to get the same dynamic look to it. So if you don't have an airbrush, you can always take, obviously you're going to need white. You're going to need black to prime it first, and then you're going to need a white, and you basically, and Liz is going to kill me because I'm just going to spray this here in the house. No, just kidding. You spray from above like this, maybe 10 to 12 inches away, and just do a dusting, a light dusting. You don't have nearly the control, but it will give you a zenithal prime. So, that being said, you can get this same effect, maybe not quite as controlled as what I've done. So, all right, so we got this. If you were wondering if this is being recorded, it is being recorded. So I will be posting this on the Miniature Monthly, right away after this. And Shadows of Brimstone, the lovely people over at Flying Frog Productions, will be posting it at some point. I don't know when, but it will definitely be on Miniature Monthly pretty quick after this. So you should be able to see the replay if you can't watch the whole thing. Or you got a friend and you're like, hey, you should really watch this. All right, let me look at the chat here real quick. Michael Bates, how specific are the techniques to speed paints? Would they apply equal to Citadel contrast paints? I think they're pretty. I think they're pretty much the same. I mean, I'm sure they're different, but it's the same idea. You're putting what looks like this is yellow, and that does not look yellow at all in the bottle. It looks maybe like a dark orange, but it comes out pretty yellow. Basically, the paint separates once you put it on, and the darker pigments seem to go down in the recesses. The lighter pigments just kind of stain the top, that lighter color. So then you get the light and dark, and middle colors when it's gray. So thus the whole slap chop type phenomenon that's gone over the internet. So it's very much the same. Just make sure you definitely want to shake these up really, really well. I was watching a video earlier today from Army Painter, and I guess they put 2 steel balls in there so that it really mixes up the paint well, which means they really want you to mix up the paint really well. So if it's not mixed up super good, you're probably not going to have the greatest results that you want. So that being said, our main colors, and I want to do something kind of similar to this. Obviously, this guy doesn't have wings, so where I wanted maybe black to be out on these arms, or like a really dark purple to red, I put that on the wings. So we're going to have, with these colors, I'm going to do Purple Alchemy, Hive Dweller Purple. We're going to need this Malignant Green kind of for the gray sections. I want Runic Gray for the gray sections. Maybe the Sand Golem. Oh, and the reds. The reds. That's exactly what. So Blood Red, it's funny because you think that would be a lot brighter than Slaughter Red, but it looks really dark. And in my test model, it came out really, it's like back here in these back parts of the purple. It came out really cool. So I think we're going to use that. And I didn't use this Purple Alchemy, so I'm just going to try it, because the Hive Dweller Purple is freaking dark, let me tell you. The other thing I might do is use a little bit of the Speed Paint Medium. I haven't seen many other painters using a wet palette with speed paint. Does that significantly allow you to slow the paint drying process? I don't think you want to slow the paint drying process, quite honestly. I just use a wet palette I always use a wet palette. So if it seems like it's thinning my paint too much, I would definitely not use the wet palette. But I think it's fine. So there's Purple Alchemy, and we'll take a look at the other purple. Very dark. And we want the Blood Red. It's this one. And I tend to use all these at once, so that also might be a reason why I do things the way I do it. None of my process is set in stone. So if you're like, I really don't care about any of this, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. Good for you. That's totally fine. All right, we'll do Sand Golem. We'll do these ones a little bit up here. It's really hard because even to me, they almost look like all the same color. This color, this is the Malignant Green. This one is our gray. And we need Sand Golem. Sand Golem for sure. So the way most people use these is they put one color on at a time. I just can't do that. So plus I think you get a much more dynamic range of colors if you kind of change all the colors. So if I pull, let's see here. If I pull this back up, you notice, I don't know if this is, it's probably supposed to be like blood out here at the fringes of these tentacles or the arms. But I kind of wanted to go like from a really dark red into the purple all the way into the body. And then maybe the top of this thing is going to be our color change. That's going to be purple. Or maybe it'll be a little bit more yellowish. I don't know. We will find out here shortly. So let's go back to this. And we will get rocking. Actually, I can just leave that up for myself because... Oh, then I can't see the chat. Okay, never mind. This is what happens when I have to do it myself. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to start with a bigger brush. I'm going to have a smaller brush on hand if I need to get a little tighter. And one thing I've found with the contrast or the Army Painter colors is you kind of want to be a little bit clean. Like you can't be too sloppy because if you start going outside the lines, bad things can happen. You start getting blends that you don't really want. So we'll try to stay within the lines if we can, as much as we can. If we go out a little bit, we can always blend it together. But that way I've got my secondary brush. It's ready to go. And yeah. So first thing to remember, and this is the reason why I said it doesn't really matter how, like, adding time to your speed paints, you want to put them on pretty thick. The thicker they are, like obviously not so thick that they run off the model, but the thicker they are, the more time they have to separate. And that's also why we may take a little break in the middle of this just to let things dry a little bit, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've got, this is the one purple over here, and this is the other purple right there. All right, so which one was which? That was purple. This is purple alchemy, and that's the darker purple. I'm going to use some speed paint medium because I think I like this darker purple better than that, but I need it to be a little bit thinner. Because on my test model, when I put it on the wings, you can't really see it right here, but this side was much brighter than that side, and I had to bring up my highlights a lot more. So we'll do that, and then I want the red. It's going to go on the tips of these things. So, that being said, let's get started. And I'm going to try to do one side at a time, or one leg at a time. Let's go. I think the more you can do this, the better you will get at judging how far so notice I just paint right into the red, but I'm trying not to leave like brush strokes per se. Just trying to sort of lay all this paint down on the model. I think that's pretty cool. We'll just continue adding more and more clear basically to this. Also trying to make sure my brush strokes go towards cracks and crevices. Okay, I got a little bit up here on the top there. I'm just going to add a little bit of water, clean that off. Okay, I think I can deal with that. Can you deal with that? All right. Now we're just gonna go to town. So let's get this one. Maybe if you will find yourself going a little bit too slow, like the paint's starting to dry up there before you can get the purple on, maybe do that section last, right before you get to the purple. And then that way, when you start putting the purple on, you can move it right back into the red, and it just sort of naturally sticks together. Just a question to the peanut gallery. Can you guys hear my phone ding-donging in the background? Or is that just me? It's literally in another room. Okay, cool. Thank goodness. That's all we need is rogue phone messaging. It's like nonstop. I thought I put it far enough away so I wouldn't hear it, but so we'll go. So I'm kind of trying to find a joint here where I can end my painting. And then that way, if we want the purple to go further out, we can do that. But at least for now, this is a good spot for it to end. It's like right there in that joint. All right, so we'll do some more red. I totally dig this red to purple combination. I think it's super good. Super creepy. You'll find that speed paints and contrast paints, for that matter, are both a little bit shiny. So sometimes that can, you know, if you don't like that, you're going to have to come back in and matte coat it later. But otherwise, it also makes things a little bit more vibrant, gives a little bit more depth to color. That's something that shiny paint will do. Whereas matte paints tend to sort of dull out the color. That's why a lot of people put a little semi-gloss in their paint when they're doing capes or something, where they want it to be like bright red or whatever. I may have to go throw my phone in the toilet or something. It's going to drive me crazy. It didn't message all day long. Why right now? All right. So you see what's happening already? The paint is separating and it's going more in the cracks, but it is leaving a tinted section up here. It's leaving the white part tinted purple, and that gives us our contrast basically. All right, so let's do the other side. I need to some more of this on here. All right. How do the Army Painter speed paints compare with the Monument Glaze medium and their weathering medium? I would say this does more of, it does that separation thing, whereas the glaze medium for it just, it's not the same. And it's not the same in the fact that I think the pigments and everything in this paint are different. I could be wrong, but I think they're just different. This stays really, really dark and then purpley, whereas like the glaze medium and the weathering medium kind of separates or not separates, but it just kind of shoves all the pigment down in the shadows. And I mean, it does stain the top too, but I think this is different. This definitely darkens better. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a difference there or not, but and I'm a big fan of Monument paint, so it's not, you know, it's neither here nor there. I mean, a lot of different paint lines I just buy or use because of its properties, not because of its name. So I don't really care what the brand is, but this has worked pretty good for me, for sure. So let's go purple up here. And the key here, especially, is try to get good coverage. I know if I'm trying to paint too fast, and I've done this before, I get air bubbles or I miss spots. And then I have this big gaping area where there's no color at all. It's really hard to match that. So definitely try to make sure that you get a good amount of paint on and get it everywhere. This stuff goes really fast. But don't go too fast is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. We'll switch to the red, up into the purple. And if you can also kind of pay attention and see how it works better. Like if one color covers another color better, you know, either do the red first or the purple first, or maybe it doesn't matter. Like, I don't think it really matters, but like in this case, my colors didn't blend very well, so I just kind of came back with a clean brush and just sort of maybe grab a little bit of purple and pull it in to the red here and just kind of get it to blend as best as possible. It obviously doesn't have to be perfect. This is speed painting, but you know, I'm the type of person who's like, whether I'm going fast or not, I still want it to be halfway decent, you know? And I think all of you could do something just as good with little to no experience at all. So we get all that up in there. Get some more of our thinner, our speed paint medium. You can kind of tell if you over thin it because it really is see-through. So then I just add a little bit more of the color in there, re-thicken it up a little bit, and we're good to go. See, if you kind of load your brush up and then drag it across there, kind of slow, it pretty much covers everything. You don't have to worry about missing spots. Okay, so that, again, you can see right here, there's a line. So I'm just going to go into the purple and into the red and kind of mix those together a little bit. And get a little bit more purple coming this way. Sort of keeping my brush pressure really light. Helps the paints to just sort of work together and start blending. I'm doing a wet blending class tomorrow, and I will be teaching a lot of the techniques I actually use on this model. I'm sort of blending between the colors, except it's for actual, you know, like normal acrylic paints. So there is some technique there you gotta follow, but it can make painting much, much easier. These ones. Up here. I'm running out of paint. Of course, of course. Well, that's good. I'm almost done with this third one. This, yeah, sixth one. Hive purple. Some more in there. Lost my cap. All right, there we go. I'm gonna put a little bit of more of the darker color down on the bottom side. All right, that looks pretty cool. Okay, now we're going to experiment. We're going to start experimenting. Who wants to experiment? Jeffrey Cobb, do you ever put speed paint through the airbrush? Oh, you totally can. Now, it doesn't do the speed paint thing. It definitely has a sort of a glazing effect, so it tints, like the purple will just tint the color purple. But it works amazingly well. So it's definitely a good thing to try out. Let's do the purpley color down here, and it's going to go up into sort of a gray, I think. So let's start down here. I'm just going to stop right there. Stop right on this thing. How many minutes are we in? 35. Whoa, I've been talking too much. Marianne, who let me talk so much? You're supposed to keep me in check. Okay, and then we're gonna go this gray. Up in here. Maybe. A little bit of that greenish. It's like a malignant green is like a olive kind of color. Maybe that will be creepy. Creepy tone that could go in there. Do that dark gray. We'll just do this gray right across the bottom of his head here. Remember, I have the pressure of the class, but you won't. So when you're doing this, you can kind of take your time here. Not worry about it so much. Maybe think about your colors a little bit more, or test them out on different things. Let's kind of close in on this a little bit. Let's do this up here. So notice I'm not cleaning my brush too much either. Let's put some of that brown at the front of the head. So I've kind of got multiple colors going in here. If I really want it cleaned out, I clean out my brush. But in this case, I kind of like how a little bit of that gray gets in the yellow or in the green, a little bit of the brown, you know. And I find that the softer your touch, sort of the less mess it makes. Let me just take some water and get that to thin together. Get this right here. Thin that out. Put some over here. I feel like if you're a brand new painter, you don't know the difference, so you just start doing it. You don't worry about it. Maybe some of you that are experienced professionals or have a little bit more experience, sometimes that experience works against you, and so sometimes you gotta jump out of your comfort zone and just try to add some stuff. So this is the malignant green in the middle, and then I added some of the sand golem, which is a really good color. Around the edges a little bit. And if I feel like it's a little bit blotchy right there, I can just add some more of the sand golem or the malignant green in the middle there and let it go. Let her rip. A little bit more of that right there. Kind of dig that. Let's do, for the mouth here, I'm going to need some more of this stuff. We're going to use that other purple, the one I didn't use for the body, because it was too magenta-y looking. But I think that'll be perfect for this mouth. the maw. Is that what it's called? Here. The other thing you want to be careful of is when you're going kind of fast, it has a tendency to make air bubbles in the paint, and so you don't want to go too fast. You slow your roll down a little bit, because sometimes those air bubbles, they just stay a bubble, and when they pop, they leave a mark. Something we don't want to have happen. Okay, so we've got that. Maybe we can get a little bit stronger color. Maybe I shouldn't have thinned that out, huh? All right, a little bit better. I like it. I like it. Let's continue our green. Rolling into that kind of, maybe it's into runic gray into like purple for the back. So we got here. Where did that purple go? It's right here. Lots and lots of purple. All right. So we'll do purple back here. If you have questions, I will definitely try to get to them in here in a second. This is like, it's going down right now. Notice I'm trying to keep this paint going down fairly thick. This is the spot where we want to be a little bit careful. Get right up near those eggs, but try not to touch them too much, because when the paint goes on the eggs, it's going to suck that purple right up into the eggs. Really don't want that to happen too much. This would be a good time to actually have the paint dry, but it may or may not happen. Okay, so I'm trying to use my gray here underneath. And how are we going to transition this? It's going to be like a grayish purple. Just like this. Purpley color in the back. I'm always I'm kind of experimenting with the way I do my brush strokes to try to get all that, the excess paint to go down in the little cavities right there. I think that looks really cool. Where's our gray, runic gray? Let's get some more of that. It's almost turned purple on the palette. Grab this. Up in here. And we just keep going around. You can always wait for this stuff to dry and then hit it again with another shade of speed paints. But I kind of dig the way this blends together. So if you can at all do it all at once. Also, if you can do it all at once, that means it's all done at once. Even better. This is that gray right here. That, get a little bit of the greenish color up here. See, I almost just dab it on. Now, tomorrow in my classes, I'll be telling you just the opposite. Whatever you do, don't put too much paint on. But here, you actually want it to be kind of too much. All right, so this brown sand golem will kind of come through here and kind of be our transitionary color from the greenish color. The cool thing is too, not only am I changing colors, but each individual color has different shades of color because I've got my shades of gray, my shades of white, my shades of black that are showing through each one of these colors and changing those colors specifically. So I'm getting color changes and I'm also getting value changes just because of my zenithal prime here. And that is awesome. Really shouldn't touch the paint, but you know what? We don't got time. All right, something like that. It's starting to look kind of cool. This right here, there, right there, and then as it comes down, maybe we'll start switching more to the brown. Something like that. Alright. It's almost base coated. What the heck? Who knew? Alright, so now we need a really bright color for those eggs. Like this. And this color is crazy. It's very orange and it turns very yellow very quickly when it separates. So this one you definitely want to put on relatively thick. Let it run down, get in all the cracks and crevices, and then turn yellow. That's what we want. And I've got some other colors in my paint, in my brush, so that's not helping things. But that's okay, because sometimes that makes it look very organic. Also, if I'm touching any of that purple that's still wet, it will turn the yellow pretty much brown. So be careful. Get these on like this. Here's this last one. Boom, 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 chicka boom. Now, I haven't done the basing on this. So it'll be difficult to actually paint the base, but I'll paint the sculpted part of the base. Okay, something like that. So you see how we're using these paints to the fullest. Oh shoot, you could probably do even better use for them, but for now, this is pretty good for beginners. But you're getting some blends. It's very organic feeling. Obviously, if you're painting, the lawman or something, you're going to want to be more precise at where you put things, but you can still do some of these blends like on a hat or something. I think that would be pretty cool. So that's not too bad. Hey, not too bad, huh? We did that in just under an hour, and I talked a lot. Okay, so the next key component thing that you'll need is a blow dryer. And first, let me answer a couple questions. Let me go through the list here. How likely will you do second coats of paint, or do you not with speed paint? It's hard because it changes the dynamic. It's tinting that first layer, and then I guess you could tint it again. Part of this is like try it. Grab a whole bunch of figures. Get yourself some figures that you don't care that much about, or that you can just quickly reprime. This stuff doesn't leave super thick paint on your miniature, so you could paint it in like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then reprime it and paint it again. So some of it is you just got to find out. I don't tend to re-hit it because I feel like it already did its thing. If you put the layers on too thin, you're going to have problems because one, you're not going to have enough paint pooling down into the recesses, and you're not going to have enough paint to tint the top. So you got to keep doing it, and eventually you're just going to have a solid color of paint. So maybe that's not the best idea. But I'm not saying don't do it. I mean, you could. I use speed paints all the time for shading in between cracks of things. So like you notice that brown was like really dark when it was all in one little place. When it's spread out, it thins out and it's much lighter, But that's really good for like dark lining things and stuff. And so I'll do that. So I'm not putting it all over everything. I'm putting it in just specific spots. So there you can do that, and you'll actually see. If I don't do it, remind me. But on these eggs, we'll highlight up the eggs a little bit, and then maybe we'll put some more speed paint on them, but in a different way to enhance the look of the eggs. So using all the best attributes that speed paints have, basically. Let's see. Oh my gosh, the webinar chat's gone crazy. I'll practice on non-Shadows minis from folklore and don't look back first. I'm sure we all have tons of minis that we're not super caring about, like that we're like, what, if I mess these up, it's not the end of the world. I can still play with them. Who cares, I mean, shoot, I have enough board games that don't have paint on any of them. Lewis said, I'm tempted by snakebite leather, mostly use voluptuous pink for Emperor's Children, also great for purple. Yeah, and that's the other thing. I have voluptuous pink. I'm using the speed paints right now because that's what I have in front of me. Like I said before, I'm not tied to any one particular brand, but the speed paints work great. And much to my chagrin, because when Scott was like, hey, I'm sending you a set of speed paints, I was like, I don't need more paint, but they actually work pretty good, and I find myself using them. So it is what it is. Use what works good for you. And not necessarily what works good for someone else, because if you do that, you might have a bad experience, you know. But always try it out. Just try it out, you know. And don't get rid of paint just because you think, oh, it's not working right now, because you might actually level up. Your painting might level up over time. And what didn't work before, that paint, the attributes of that paint work now. So it's one of those things where, like, you know, don't be like me. I got rid of all my Citadel paints. Because all the cool kids were using X brand or whatever. And then I found myself buying Citadel paint skin because it worked with my blending, how I blended. And now, you know, I don't have that problem anymore because I pretty much just use everything. I find what works and I use it. So, all right. Don't Look Back, what a fun game. X2 DBL is great. Black Side, I appreciate how complex and dramatic this model looks, yet with such a simple assembly. Yeah, it's very, very simple. And also the way you can change the arms, like, I think I need to get a couple more of these because I want to do like different styles of, like, you know, like maybe all back, you know, like it's rearing up. I don't know. The arms are super cool. Time for some sleep. Have you fun, y'all. I'm going to watch it later. Yes, you can definitely. Hey, Jens. That's cool, cool, cool. I'm off to the hill train. Thanks for the tips. You're welcome. You're welcome. Brian Bosch. Awesome dude. Okay, so let me blow dry this. I'm not going to get too close because when you're blow drying your model, especially with speed paints or contrast paints or anything like washes, you don't want to blow them around. Like, so maybe a little bit further back. I just want to kind of start coaxing it into drying. And then maybe we'll let it dry the rest of the way on its own. Either way, I think this is working pretty good. Pretty stoked. I wasn't quite sure how this was going to turn out. It's always the neat thing about painting. Sometimes you get those happy accidents, or you're just like, I would have never expected it to, you know, to paint like that, but it did, and it looks pretty cool. All right. So we'll go back. Oops, not that camera. This camera. All right. So maybe we'll do one little thing and then we'll start adding other stuff. I'm going to grab two brushes. So I'm going to grab an applicator brush, which will be this one. That's going to put the paint on. This is going to be my take the paint off brush. So I want to dunk it in water, wipe it down, maybe lick it while it's clean, and so it's just damp brush. Now I can take our sand golem. Check this out. So if I can apply this paint onto here, because I want this side to be a little bit darker brown. Like, I like how dark it is right up in here. So I want that to be on this side too. So if we just go like that, and then start wiping back and forth. What do you think of that? That looks pretty blended, doesn't it? Holy cow, Batman. Not too shabby, huh? I know some of you have seen me do this before, but if that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what would. That's easier than airbrushing. I'll tell you that right now. It's amazing. Maybe we'll put a little bit up in here. All right, there we go. There we go, there we go. Let's do some of this over here. I'm just going to do some of the same. Just using the wet brush to kind of erase some of that. And I mean, I could be wrong, but I think a beginner could do this no problem. Like maybe you need a little bit of practice, but all I'm doing is wiping off the model. And the key is, don't have a lot of water in your paintbrush, because if you have too much, it will disperse too much, and that would not be good. But let's do this right here. We'll go down the side here. Now you're gonna have to, play around with the colors that this will work with. Obviously, some will work better than others, but once you find really good colors for this, I think it is pretty awesome. All right, so let's do I'm gonna make these like maybe kind of bloody. We kind of, and now this would be a case where I'm putting the speed paints over another speed paint. So maybe it is, I don't know. Maybe the more I play with these, the more I'll find what I can and can't get away with. But I'll just say, like, this is a Gastral Tyrant, so he's in the intestines. So these little things would be poking into the walls and stuff of the stomach lining. All that fun stuff. I'm pretty sure I have one of these Gastral Tyrants inside my body. For real. Alright, something like that. 9:02, we have 58 minutes to make magic happen, I think. Or magic will not happen, and then we'll all be in trouble. Because I'm blaming you all if I don't finish this. Just kidding. All right, so let's do, I want to get in this crack right here. So, let me see what it looks like with brown first. Thin it out, all the way down. Something like that. I think that's okay. Something that I tell my students all the time is to get good at this and figure out what your paint's going to do and have better success, you've got to do. You have to put paint on models. You have to keep practicing. If you don't, you're not going to find those cool color combinations or what actually works. I mean, this actually did a lot better than I thought it would, and I would have never known had I not just tried. So this little bit of brown kind of brings sort of an organic look in here. Maybe also it's desaturated, so it makes the colors show up a little bit better. Maybe it doesn't, who knows, but I'm also gonna, now you'll notice the speed paint goes into cracks very easily, so you can run your brush, like a brush with a good tip. This Artist Opus has an amazing tip on it. And it will run that paint right down in those areas, so you can get like a really nice look to that. Really good definition. And let's do, we need to do the other side up here. So for me, the base coating's super boring. This is where it starts getting fun, because the real model starts emerging from the depths of your paintbrush. Here's the other thing. This brown is kind of bridging the gap a little bit between the purple and the gray and the green. It's like a little color bridge. All right, we need more sand golem. So if you're a newbie, I think you'd be pretty stoked with this. I know I would. But if you are a seasoned professional and you're wanting a little bit more out of your painting, you know, there's the paint's a little blotchy here and there. It's not perfect. Holy cow, it's pretty good for under an hour for this big model. Like if I painting this for like say box art or something, this size of the model, it would be like 20-25 hours easy. And that's with me going pretty fast. Normal people would be even more than that. So, okay. So we got that. We got our browns kind of flowing up here into the gray, and I'm just kind of wiping away a lot of this. All right. All right, I like it. Down the backside. Not too bad. So if that was it, that's it. Your model's done. Like we basically base coated it. I showed you a little bit of an advanced technique to get it a little bit cooler, but that's not too bad. Let me oh, I would take a picture of it, but I can't because my phone's in the other room ding-donging. All right, so we got that. Let's do another quick blow dry, and I'll answer some more questions if there are any. Dwayne's about to miss the best part of this whole thing. Okay, so our next step, hopefully this blow dryer is not too loud. Here, I'll go way down here. For our next step, we're going to be dry brushing a little bit. And that's another basic technique. Shouldn't be too hard, too difficult. I'll show you kind of how I do it. Oh, poop. I missed a spot right over here. The back side of these. Leave it to me to be OCD enough to... Although I want this model to be done. I want to play with it in my game. So part of the reason for doing these is not for you guys to learn anything. It's for me to get my Shadows stuff painted up for my own game. I know that sounds selfish, but you know, it comes to painting models, you got to be a little selfish. Okay. That red's in there. That stuff's in there. Maybe the tips of his gaping maw get a little bit of red. Like he got into a little bit of something. I'll put some right in the middle of his mouth. Perfect. Okay, so now we need to... I used up almost my entire wet palette with paint, with Speedpaints. We got this. So, I've got a brush like this, and This is Morphe. It's just a makeup brush. I actually prefer the bigger ones than this. They seem to work better, but this will work for now. You could also use just a hobby brush like this. Of course, you can see this one's probably been used quite a bit for dry brushing, so that would work too. Now we've got to get colors that we think would work good for this, for our situation right here. And for that, what did I put on my paint? I'm gonna need like a tan color. This color's good. Fang bone. That'll be kind of our highlighty color. I also want this color to highlight up some of the purple paint. Oh, there's the purple. One thing when you have these Army Painter, the Shadows of Brimstone Army Painter paints, when they're brand new, you might notice that a lot of clear liquid comes out the top. From what I've been told, you got to squirt all of that out. That's like excess. It's there for the shipping process. And if you mix it all into your paint will be way too thin. So get that stuff out of there. Get some purple. And I'm trying to remember how I did this earlier today. Speed painting's so quick, you know. I know what I did. Okay, so we got some green. Obviously not the green that we had, that we used for the speed paint. So we're gonna have to mix that. So to make olive, you put orange into green. And we'll do some red up here, which we may or may not use. But let's try to have some colors on hand, just in case I need them. Okay, so for this color right here, we need to mix up a color because we don't have that color. See, I just made olive. It's almost brown. And we'll grab some of this. That makes kind of a greenish tan. Can always put a little bit more green in it if we need it to go back the green route just a little bit. There we go. I think that'll work. We'll find out. So now we're going to be dry brushing our speed paints. And what you want to do is you always want to dry brush like in the same direction. You don't want to dry brush from the bottom up because your highlights are from the top down. And let's see if we can't soften this up a little bit. You don't want this to be too thick. This is just going to be like sort of subtle. Put some back here. Just trying to pick out some of these details. If you can't see it, you need to add a little bit more of the lighter color probably. This way. And you'll know if it's working because you'll start seeing details a little bit better that you weren't seeing before. And you'll know if you're too heavy-handed because it will start obliterating everything. Like it will get down in the shadows and the recesses and stuff. So you really want to be, you know, patient here. Something like that. Go around here. Go right here. Hopefully I can take a screenshot off of the where I stopped. Where I said if you're a first-time painter, stop right here. I want to get a picture of that and post it on the shadows page. And then show the picture after. Maybe I can just go pretty much all in with this color. There we go. Pretty nifty. Okay, so now we're going to want to make something for our purple. So purple mixed with blue. Sort of a lilac color or something. Maybe a little bit of this cream. You can see, or I can see right here, here, and here, and there, I missed. That's okay, we'll just deal with it. Okay, I'm not really cleaning my brush out because I don't want to get it wet. If you get your dry brush wet, it's much harder to dry brush with. So, again, we'll brush in a back motion, even up the tail, because we want this to be good little highlights. I'm really light with my dry brushing. That's one thing I like about these makeup brushes, is they are really, really easy to work with. Like you can be really light with them. They're very delicate. All right, see that? And we're starting to get a little bit more, all that structure showing up. Do some here, but I won't go all the way down into the red. I'll just go partially into where the red and the purple go together. Like that. If you're light with it. And the other thing is, make sure there's not too much paint on your on the brush. You can kind of tell almost instantly when you put the brush down onto the model if there's too much. So take it off, wipe it off a little bit more, wipe it on your hand, something like that. You can almost feel it. It's like a little bit wetter. And then we just lightly start hitting the model. Go some in here. You can do multiple shades of dry brushing. You know, you can work your way up to lighter and lighter colors maybe. But I think in a lot of cases you don't need to. Something like that. 920, we're still doing pretty good. See, I've almost gotten to the point where I'm just grabbing the blue because it seems to be, it's not doing anything too crazy. It's not turning it full on blue. It's just giving it a nice little highlight. It's very subtle. Something like that. Maybe we can put some inside the mouth here so we see a little bit of that detail in there. And if we overdo it a little bit, we can always put more blood in there. Get some more back here. I like it. That's looking pretty good, huh? Not too bad. Let's go ahead and wipe this out. If you need to dry brush more, just make sure to try to get the brush as dry as possible. Maybe even put paint in it and take it out of it several times. Just get as much of that moisture out and you should be able to dry brush some more. Or if you're like me, you have 2 or 3 of these dry brushes, and so you don't have to ever do that. You can just, once you get it wet, you can let it dry out completely. All right, so we got that. The eggs. Need a yellow. We definitely need like white or something. Let's hope this white works. Yeah, it'll work. It's a little on the old side. Hopefully that doesn't give us any problems. I think it'll be okay. Alright, so I'm mixing up like a little bit of white into yellow. If possible, you want, like, this is cinder yellow. It doesn't have, I don't think it has too much red in it. It's not too much like a golden yellow, and what you want is more yellow. So exactly what we got. Because if it was more orangey yellow, I think it would look weird on these eggs. Even though the eggs kind of are an orangey yellow. But, so, what we're going to do is I'm going to put this maybe just kind of in a dabbing motion. Like, you know how, like, bird eggs sometimes are crazy and have little spots and stuff? They're speckly. In fact, most bird eggs are that way. That's what we'll do. Even though this isn't a bird, clearly. I'll just kind of put this on. I'm being very haphazard with my brush strokes, and I'm pushing harder, less hard, you know, like whatever I need to do to kind of get a very stippled or sort of dappled looking, is that a word? Dapple? My phone is still going off. I can't believe it. It's like the most unbelievable record of notifications of all time. Alright, so this very quick, and again, you don't have to be the best painter to do this because we're basically just touching that paint down, letting it kind of go on in different shapes and sizes. Now, I know it's also going down in different levels of opacity because there's different layers of paint at this point going down. If you're brand new to painting, you probably won't know anything about the levels of opacity, but don't worry about it. Just do what I'm doing. Notice I keep going back over the same eggs over and over again. It happens, you know, it seems like, oh my gosh, you have to go over every egg 30 times, but it isn't that big of a deal. Like, it doesn't take that long. It's kind of fun. You could get on Facebook Live and do it live for your friends. They'll be so excited that you dappled an egg of a disgusting creature for 2 hours. See how those colors are starting to come? It's coming up though. It's starting to be brighter at the top, but kind of textury. I like it. This is one of the most awesome things ever. Sometimes when you're painting, you gotta let a little of your crazy out. So I'm sort of delving deep into nuttiness right now. Especially since my phone keeps going off. And Brian left us. Can't believe it. If you don't know who Brian is, he is one of the greatest guys in the community. He is at every event, and he does so much for the community as a whole, with really asking nothing in return. Like, he just loves Shadows of Brimstone. Anyways, if you ever see him, give him a high five. Be like, hey, Aaron said you were pretty awesome. And then kick him in the shins. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. I'll do a few more. Maybe just the front ones get a little bit more white in them. But the key here is you don't want to go too white. You want there's still to be a lot of yellow saturated color in that mixture. But I think that works. And then we can go back. Remember I was saying we could reapply some of this paint. And where did it go? Sand Golem. I've already gone into, oh, here we go. Here is the yellow. And we will grab the brush. We're going to try two things. One is the easy route. I'm going to put this on again and then just wipe it off. Yeah, I like the easy route. You could use a brush and wipe away the top area. Kind of push it back and then wipe it off. But I think just wiping it off works pretty darn good. So now you might ask yourself, why didn't we just do this right off the bat? But it doesn't always work quite that way. Sometimes you got to get that initial color on there and then put the color on again. Some of these back ones, I think we will have to use the brush. Just kind of wipe it down. See how that's starting to give us like really good color right there? Good color, good coverage. Okay, I'm seeing where the wipe it away isn't going to work on most of these eggs because they're a little bit too down in there. There. Just put a whole bunch on. Take my brush with lots of water, or kind of lots of water. Wipe it down, get it in the cracks, crevices. Good to go. Wipe these off, wipe that on. You know what's really scary is we're doing really good on time. Get some of that. Let's just see if we can't do a bunch of these really quick because I'm getting super lazy. There, just wipe down the tops. Let's do the back ones. Bloppity, bloppity, bloppity. And it's like, they don't all have to be exactly the same. Like, some of them could be a little bit more orange yellow than the other ones. It's okay because it's an organic thing. Like, they would be different colors, probably. We could go in, grab some of this. Hit some of those up a little bit more. Alright. That looks pretty cool. Not gonna lie. Not too shabby. Okay, so now that we've got that, we can do a little bit Just some final highlights. If you wanted to, this is like option number 45. But you can come up and just re-hit some of these spots with your paintbrush and with actual paint. Sort of the same color that we were dry brushing with, but now you're putting it on a little bit more deliberate in spots. And this is where you can start taking this paint job in another direction, like an actual, like I want this to be like something really cool, really nice. Just something like that. Keep your brush strokes really light. I'm using the side of my brush a lot for this. Maybe have this go down like that. Do this other side. And again, if I'm doing this for my game, I'm always challenging myself at how fast I can do the model, but make it look as good as I possibly can. So that keeps me from just completely mailing in the paint job. You know, I'm not just like, oh, I just don't care at all. I do care, but I also care about my time. And I like to watch, you know, Sunday afternoon football. And if I'm painting this model all day, I'm not going to be able to watch as much. So it is what it is. But if we just kind of add some of these little highlights in, just kind of beef them up a little bit. And this is one of those things, the more you do it, the better you get at the placement of your highlights. And, you know, just how many of them to do, when to not care, you know, all that good stuff. That just comes with experience. Go a little bit up here, there. Go all down in here. Trying not to get down in those crevices where I have the nice dark color, because that looks really nice. I got really good contrast there. Like this, like that. Down in here. Maybe I don't care so much about the lower arm because it's further down. But I think I do care a little bit up in here. And notice I am using my better brush, and it's got a pretty good point on it. So I'm a little bit more controlled with my lines. And if you're a brand new painter, this is not going to be as easy for you, but it might be. You know, if you're good at coloring in coloring books. My mom was really good at coloring in coloring books. I was awful. That's probably why it took me so long to learn how to paint. But you know, maybe some of you will naturally be a little bit better. But with practice, I think all of you can be better. And I assume most people aren't super artistically inclined, or you know, or they just never did it. So at first, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but sort of take it step by step. I think it could end up being pretty cool. So now we'll grab some more of this, our greenish color, and some of our tan. Basically, I'm just looking where naturally there's raised areas where it's kind of already highlighted for me, and I'm just adding a little bit more of that paint to that area. Like maybe these highlights go down into where the brown was a little bit stronger. Here. Like that. maybe I'll just sort of do some brush strokes up here at the top where it's supposed to be the brightest. And we'll go a little bit more in here. I don't know what these things are. Oh, those are probably darkstone. That would make sense. So let's make those darkstone stones. We'll just grab the speed paint purple because it's really, really dark. There we go. There's always dark stone in these beasts. All right. We'll let this dry here. I'll take a look if there's any other questions. Well, Bob, I'm actually answering that right now as we speak. Highlights is where Edgar needs to improve. Yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, I think the more you do it, the better you get at it. I find actually if you take a whole bunch of the same, like the exact same model. So I've got, this one, and this one, which are the same models. If I painted them exactly the same, and then highlighted them a little bit differently each. So now, obviously, you probably don't want to do that on your good gaming models, especially for Shadows. But there are companies, or even Shadows does have the red sets that are relatively inexpensive to pick up, or you could get like Reaper Bones or something and just get this tin of the same figure and really start mapping out. Like I found that's kind of how I learned how to do non-metallic metal. I painted a really large army, and each one of the poses had 15 of that pose. And so what I did was I just started edge highlighting a little bit differently on each area of the model. So I just do the knee pad of like the knee armor of that model, but I do it 15 times. And so like the first 5 times they were all different. I'd put the highlights in different spots, and then after that I would line them up and I'd look at them and I'd go, where do the highlights look the best? It's funny when you're doing it, you can't really tell what's the right thing, but when it's all lined up, you can tell exactly which is right. And so I started learning by the 6th or 7th model. I didn't mess up on the highlights. The highlights were all in the right spots. Like maybe I adjusted them a little bit, but it wasn't like, oh, I need to put on the other side or something, So I would suggest doing that on miniatures as a practice thing. Don't think of it as like, oh, these have to be perfect or anything. Just practice your highlights on similar models or the exact same models. And then when you get to like regular models, the hardest part about regular like models, they're all different, And so those highlights change spots, But if you've done enough practice models and stuff, you've hit kind of every shape and direction that model could be, in, and you can get those highlights a lot better. So, practice definitely does make perfect or better at least, It's just a matter of doing it. Also, really study what other people have done. Not necessarily, sometimes I guess that's a bad thing to say. Sometimes as painters, we put highlights in the wrong spots and then people copy that as being right and it's wrong. But if it looks cool, it's right, whether it's wrong or not. Like looking good is what you want the model to be. You want the model to look as fantastic as possible. So sometimes artists break rules to make something look better than it is, and that's totally okay. And if you're copying stuff that already looks really good, you probably have a really good idea of where those highlights go and what you should do. So, okay. So let me. We're letting that dry. Let's see here. For the Darkstone, it was just a tapeworm. Yeah, and then it went sideways quick. Okay, so let's hope that this is dry enough. All right, that paint is super watery. That's not good. Getting a nice sharp edge to your brush. If the paint's too watery or sort of gummy, it's not a good thing. So I think that will work. And let's just I feel like this purple has seen better days. This is where it'll turn into greenstone or something like that, not dark stone. So maybe we do this top facet on these ones this way. This might be more difficult than I thought. This purple may not be the purple for this job. That's what I'm trying to say. Alright, so let's go. So I tried to make it a little bit lighter purple at the top. That top corner one. Not sure if you can even tell that that's lighter. This paint. May not be the best for this situation right here. Okay. The white's definitely thick enough to make this work. Alright, so I'm just going to make a plus sign here, basically. You have to grab a different purple. This will be, so maybe this top part completely gets hit by the light. Basically, when you're making these gemstones, like, you want to have like some, like, you need that contrast. So you know, the light's hitting one side a little bit more than the other sides, and so it's like reflecting the light a little bit better, or almost entirely. Key to this though is I need a little bit more control over the color, and I'm not exactly getting it here, but we might be able to do this. I think let's have faith. We'll go. There we go. Oh my gosh, can you hear my alarm now? All right, I will be right back. I gotta go turn that alarm off. Sorry, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Nobody left. Good. All right, let's get this. I knew that phone would get the best of me eventually. Unbelievable. So, and then I just keep coming back. It will re-hit right at the top of this. Right up here. This could obviously be better. It's starting to work a little bit. Right at the point here. Put a little dot. If you really wanted to go crazy, we can put like some little lines going across the gemstones. The lights reflecting off of them. Something like that. We really need this. Maybe the bottom backside much darker. Something like that. I don't know. Not the best gemstone of all time, but pretty good for using speed paints in a really watery purple. I don't know if everybody's purple is this watery, but mine was, and it makes it not easy. But again, it made it easy to dry brush it, so that's why I always say it. Use different things. Use different paints. Don't worry about it too much. You know, every paint's good at what it does, and it's bad at some things, so find what works the best. This thing needs a little bit more of this brown. A little bit of this right here. So that alarm did signify that we were 15 minutes away. 10 minutes. So, this is not too bad. I'm digging it. So, obviously you could go more crazy. You could add more highlights in other areas and stuff like that. But I think for now, for what this is and for how long it took, I think that's pretty darn good. Do you guys have any other questions or any other answers or anything? I would love to ask. Steve, see you later. Rock and roll. I could show you guys some of my other painted miniatures. I could do a little showcase of actual models, not just pictures, if you want to see those. So let me know. I'll have a paint contest with my own models. Okay, give me just a second. I'm gonna go grab them out of the case, and I'll be right back. Here, I'll leave this right here for you guys to look at. There you go. Give me just a second. Set all these down. So most of these are actually my own personal, well, they're all my own personal models. What am I saying? This is my collection. This is what we play with, and we are definitely going to play with this bad boy. I may put a few more hours into him, because 2 hours is not very much. Like usually I'll spend an entire day on either a unit or a monster. So I've got another 4 hours I could put into this guy, and I think I probably will. But I think he's pretty darn good. For 2 hours, remember, 10 years ago, I would have never thought I could do something like that in 2 hours. Okay, so here's my Guardian. These are the special bases that I sculpted in a program called Blender, and all the new models. I do use a lot of the sculpted bases that the frogs use, but if they don't have ones for a particular world, I'm sculpting my own. And so this one is actually based right off of an actual map tile. So, but I think it looks pretty cool. Pretty nifty. Here's you may remember these. We did these in a live stream. This was the dry brushing one. I think from maybe last year or the year before. There's a couple of the Void Hounds. And at some point, I'm going to do the Void Sorcerers because I need those. I need all of them. I've got a Tridaran guy. You can get a little bit closer. He's pretty cool. I don't actually have a whole unit of these guys. I haven't done it yet, but that was like one of my tester models. This was a conversion I did. This is the old Preacher. You can kind of recognize him by the pose, but I didn't put the hat on. I actually sculpted some extra bits to him. So I believe I added this piece. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I don't know what I added, but I added some stuff to this guy, and I definitely added the hood, and it came out pretty cool. So I'm pretty happy with that. I don't know, it's always fun to do like little extra things to your models. I always see people doing the Tren Gladiators or whatever, the Tren Warriors. That people are always doing conversions of those, and they're like super cool. So this is actually my my character. I know it's supposed to be one of the allies, but I just love this sculpt. So that's me. That's the character I play in the game. So. Got him. These are my my spiders, and the color scheme is actually for Tridera. They're supposed to be like mechanical spiders, but I tried to put silver on them and they just look dumb. So, anyways, they're for Tridera. I try to have different models, like the special models for each world or whatever. Here's one of the gates. This is a gate that I did in a roll to move. So this is, I think this one actually was last year's. So I always make my gates so they're going between worlds. I don't have them, for me personally, I don't have them in between map tiles in that particular world. It's always like where there's a portal to another world. It's like, oh, this one's going to Giorgano, you know? So it's kind of cool. I don't know. I like living in that little imaginary world. So here's one. This is Tridera or Targa Plateau going to like Blasted Waste or something. So kind of cool lighting effects and stuff. And then here's another one. This is my favorite one. So this is Tridera, or Targa Plateau going to Caverns of Cinder. So there's all a fiery world there. So yeah. Oh, and then I've got a terrain piece. Whoa, I need to go backwards a little bit. So this one I actually did in a Reaper House of Vex show that I had done a while ago. I believe this video is up on our Miniature Monthly YouTube page. It's just a free video. If you look in the playlist under House of X, you can find this one. It was a single session, and it came out really good. I really like it. Have yet to play it in a game though. I have not. I know it has rules for it. And then this is my Belial. It's the because you can have different kinds of Belials, and this is the really evil one. So he's like he's straight out of Caverns of Cinder. And I've not finished him yet. I started this guy 2 or 3 years ago at Gen Con, and it was really cool, and people were really excited about it. And I finished up a little bit more when I got home, and then I just haven't finished him. So I need to make a special base for him, and anyways. But he still looks cool, and I thought I'd show you guys. So yeah. So that is it for my little showcase there. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them in the next 3 minutes. Otherwise, I can let you guys roll. Did you paint the tank yet? Yeah, I painted the tank long time ago. If you show up tomorrow, I'll show a picture of the tank. I don't have the tank, but came out pretty cool. I liked it. That was and I had to paint every single faction. That would be crazy. Cool. So you'll be there tomorrow. So remind Liz, because Liz will be here, and you guys can all hound her about how she let me to my own devices, and it was horrible, and you guys didn't learn anything, and I didn't even finish the model. Like, of course, which is all a lie, but because I think this was my best performance ever. Anyways, thank you all for showing up. Let me just double check. We could tell her yeah, exactly. You could. No problem. Hey, it was really good having you all down here. If you come back tomorrow, it's 10 a.m. Eastern, which I don't know what time that is your time, but that's what time I'm getting up and coming out here and painting. And we'll be doing wet blending, and that's a really good technique. It's a little bit, it's more advanced, but it's still a beginner technique. It's just advanced because it's hard unless you have somebody to tell you how to do it. And guess what? You have someone to tell you how to do it. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow. Stop by. We'll chit-chat. Remind me. I'll show you the tank. And yeah, we'll get rocking. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I will talk to you later. And have a good evening.